everyone, Bitey here, and today we're going to take a look at the complete version of Zero Below the Sun. The dev, Black Curtain Studios, saw my video covering their demo and offered me a key. I really enjoyed that 30-minute demo, even with its rough edges, so I'm excited to jump in and see how the full thing comes together.
8 hours later.
Zero Below the Sun sits in an odd place for me. It's a neat 2 to 3 hour action horror experience, but it's riddled with game-breaking bugs. I played through it like 4 times and I couldn't even beat it once. There's a fun game here when you're not hitting a brick wall and losing all of your progress. And had I managed to beat it my first run, I believe it would have walked away with a high recommendation for players who are interested in a fun action horror but can look past some minor jank. But as it is, with all these bugs, I feel it would be best to hold out until Black Curtain Studios manages to fix them. I decided to see what else Black Curtain Studios had done, because the impression I got from playing this game was that it was their first major project. But it turns out they had a major hit with the Let's Play scene back in like 2013 with One Late Night, and seemingly have been consistently making games ever since. Though this seems to be their first dip into this more complex genre, so I'd understand if there was a lot of learning going on behind the scenes. It also seems that Zero Below the Sun has been in development since late 2020 at least. Its base price on Steam is currently $14, link in the description below. If I paid that with the experience I got, I would have been really upset. Again, I played the game 4 times in the week since I'd been given a copy, and I couldn't beat it once due to game-breaking bugs. But I should probably get on with what exactly happened during those playthroughs. I'll be going through the game as it's played, cobbling all 4 playthrough experiences together as they become relevant. Now, before playing a game, I like to look at the achievements and see what the dev is expecting out of the player. This game is primarily filled with progress achievements, things that you'll naturally get as you move through the facility. Get this weapon here, find a mod disc there, kill X thing, etc. Some are missable if you aren't paying close attention, like 2 mod discs are locked behind keypads with keys hidden in secret places. But I'm mostly bringing up achievements because there is one challenge achievement, Pacifist, which asks you to kill no mutants. Seeing this, I attempt to see how far I can get without killing anybody. I'm a survival horror veteran who's not too shabby performing fancy footwork to avoid enemies and conserve ammo, but the answer was 2. I managed not to only kill the first enemy, because the game locks you in a room with the second, and it won't let you progress till you kill them, which is something the game does a lot. Now, this may be a Deus Ex Human Revolution situation, where there are encounters that you have to kill, and those don't count, and it's only counting the optional encounters. But if that's the case, I believe the achievement should be more explicit about that. Based on the achievement percentage, it seems like no one's gotten it yet, which might be because it's unachievable in its current state. I did try to keep up the pacifism, but quickly after that mini-boss, I got pinched into a corner by 2 monsters and I couldn't escape without violence. So I gave up after that. And that will become a common occurrence when you avoid combat, that these tight spaces will start filling up with more and more enemies as you trip new triggers. But those new spawns don't despawn old enemies, and the enemies will chase you through an entire level, so it's not uncommon to have a 6 mutant conga line going. Also, this game is made up of mostly tight corridors and tiny rooms, and 6 people easily packs them out, trapping you in with no other option but to kill. Oh, there's also this achievement for finding a secret room, which I believe unlocks right before the final boss elevator, but you have to backtrack for it, and I only managed to find it because I was desperately looking for something I missed that was blocking my progress on my 4th playthrough. I do like the melody. When I stumbled on it, it felt really familiar. Not sure if it's reminiscent of something else, or if I just remembered seeing a Let's Play of One Late Night long ago. Anyway, moving on from achievements, once you boot the game, a couple of screens play. Black Curtain Studios, this game contains scene. Get drilled in your head as you die, crash, or otherwise get booted to the menu. There's no skipping it. Controllers only seem to half work. Some menus are fine. The running and gunning are fine, but every so often you come across a menu that doesn't react, like the difficulty menu or the save menu. It's not the end of the world, but it pushed me to keyboard and mouse only because I didn't want to swap back and forth so much. Speaking on difficulty, I'm glad there isn't an achievement lock to it. When there is, I feel pressured to play it because I'm drawn to complete the checklist, even if I would have a better time on a mild difficulty. So having the freedom to choose a difficulty with no worry is always nice. Though I did try out hard on my 2nd and 3rd playthroughs because normal was starting to feel like a cakewalk, But to my understanding, I think the only thing that hard really does is take away the unlimited rations in certain rooms. And instead you only get one. And when you can only get one, you realize just how little health there is in the entire map, essentially turning hard into a no-hit run challenge. Enemies might get more health and hit harder, but that's less noticeable. Anyways, into the actual game finally. The demo covered the first half hour of the game. You wake up, go to floor 4, back up to floor 2, turn on a generator, back down to 4th floor. The main game is virtually unchanged from that, though now the dodge rolling isn't the dominant form of travel. It's about equal to running. I really like the game's atmosphere. Sometimes when you're walking down a corridor all alone, the mood hits just right. The loneliness of being in these cold halls, it almost makes me yearn for a less action-focused game, and one that was quietly surviving this outbreak. Though, don't get me wrong, I do like the action here. The environment art does a lot of heavy lifting for the atmosphere. Reading through their blog, they pick the color palettes very deliberately, and I think it works. In fact, outside of the bugs and glitches, I think they nailed most of what they were aiming for. A third-person action horror with a flippin' protagonist, too cool for school, that says quippy one-liners every now and again, never taking itself too seriously, bordering on a comedy horror with how silly it can be. But again, it works. I think the only thing that would have helped the game's storytelling is voice actors, because sometimes it's unclear when you're on the radio who's talking. Anyhow, something I found annoying about the game is the aim system. So the pistol has no reticle, and in a vacuum, it's a fine way to make the game more difficult and realistic, as you just kind of have to line your shots up and figure out what your trajectory is going to be on average. And there is an upgrade for the pistol that does give it a laser sight, which is a very diegetic way to acquire a target, and I'm always a fan of diegesis in games. Though I don't love that you have to either pick easy aiming or stronger bullets, but it's fine to make the player choose. It's an interesting choice, you know, like easy aiming or stronger bullets. It's something. The problem arises when you pick up a second weapon, statistically the SMG, and realize that it does get an aiming reticle. In fact, all the other weapons have aiming reticles except the pistol. The dev really should have picked a lane design-wise, like either all of the weapons use laser sights or all of the weapons get reticles. Because the mix of diegetic aiming and non-diegetic aiming feels bad. Since we're on the topic of upgrades, mods are things that you find throughout the facility and then you can equip onto your weapons in the save room or armory. However, outside of the pistol getting a laser sight, I don't think most of the mods are that meaningful. AMP, I think, is meant to be like armor piercing, but the damage output feels so similar to regular damage that it doesn't feel useful. And then the shotgun has one that makes you reload faster, and one that gives you 2 extra bullets, and you're like, okay. The rifle has this useless scope. This almost feels like it was originally the rifle's laser sight, the diegetic way to aim, but the encounters happen in such close quarters that it's just easier to aim raw. I guess my problem with the mods is that you can only have one at a time, where I think they would have been a lot more fun to find if they stacked and made your weapons more powerful as you went. As is, you find a mod and you're like, oh, I wonder what it is. And then you go to the armor and you check it and you're like, oh, I think I'll just keep what I have. Like, if it's the only mod you got, then you'll put it on because it's the only mod you got, and I guess some mod is better than no mod, but I feel like once you get a mod onto your thing, that's probably the mod you're going to stick with because none of them really matter. So once you get past the demo stuff, you go to this hallway full of dead soldiers, which signals to you that things are about to get real. But be careful, if you skip this cutscene like I did on my second playthrough, because I'd already seen it on the first, the game forgets to unlock the player controls. So you won't be able to move or do anything, just nothing. Unless you use a controller to pause and unpause, in which case you still can't walk, and you can still dodge, so you dodge roll out of the room, and then you dodge roll back into the room because the game doesn't have you push the button automatically in that long cutscene. You have to push the button yourself after the cutscene every time, and I forget because I want the cutscene to do it for me. And then you dodge roll to the boss fight room in Generator 2, where you also have to be careful because if you skip this cutscene, you'll soft lock the game by getting pushed out of the boss room by the door, because when you trigger a cutscene, the player doesn't actually move. Like, Axel moves through a cutscene, but then once it's over, you end up right back where you triggered it. And I'm guessing the door closes in the cutscene when the player isn't solid, so it doesn't push them, but if you skip it, the door triggers to close right when the player becomes solid, and it does push them. This, of course, is a soft lock, because you can't progress without fighting that boss, but the door's locked, so you can't get in there until the boss dies, because the game wanted you to be locked in there with the boss. Again, do bosses count for the pacifist run or not? This little myriad of skip cutscene glitches left me in fear to ever try skipping the cutscene again, and made me quit my second playthrough. Anyhow, you fight this boss, who isn't hard on either difficulty, they just seem to be a bullet sponge meant to soak up all your shotgun ammo you just picked up, plus a few pistol rounds for good measure. And once you've turned on Generator 2, you can move on to level 5, the Canteen, whose open level design is a breath of fresh air against all the tiny corridors we've been walking around. I also really like it as a world building piece. You know, it's the place where everyone lives their day-to-days. Though I suppose if you think about it too hard, the facilities here really wouldn't accommodate the amount of mutants you fight. And as far as I know, each of the mutants are supposed to be people who work there, right? Unfortunately, the Canteen is a microcosm of this game's reliance on backtracking in a way that kind of hurts the game's quality, because it doesn't really feel like you're driving the plot forward, you know? It's just busy work to make you spend more time in the game. Basically, you have to go up an elevator to talk to a man that's trapped in his apartment. He'll tell you his key is in the vending machine, so you go back downstairs to the vending machine to confirm, but you'll need a coin, which is back upstairs in a washing machine. Go up there and then back downstairs to the vending machine, then back upstairs to the man, who sends you back downstairs to the kitchen to get him a burger, and then you go back upstairs to tell him a dog ate his food, and then you go back downstairs for a key card, and then you can leave. I think not being able to grab the coin before checking the vending machine sucks. This game works really hard to not let you ever sequence break. I feel like being sent down to grab the burger could have been absolutely cut, and honestly, even the part where you get the key card for the elevator in the bathroom also could have been cut. I think what makes this so egregious is that every new task is on the opposite floor, and you know, like maybe if when you got the key from the vending machine, he rings up the radio and he's like, oh hey, actually while you're down there, could you pick me up a burger from the kitchen? I'm starved. And you're like, okay, sure. Or he could have even like given you both things, you know, like, oh, hey, I'm lapped in this apartment and also I am starving because I haven't had anything to eat. Could you go pick me up something while you're finding my key, right? Like, then you go get the key and then you go to the kitchen to get the burger and you're just completing multiple tasks at the same time instead of just, But no, you go up and you go down and it feels like padding. And it feels worse because of that sole elevator they have to climb into and then wait a few seconds and then get out of right away, because if you stay in it for too long, say picking off an enemy that got in the way, the doors close. And then there's no way to open them except to go back up to the other floor and then back down to where you want to go. Level 6 almost made me give up on my first playthrough, because basically you stumble across the hall with invisible laser beams, and then the game tells you that you need to fill the room with smoke to see them and dodge them. So you gotta go all the way back up to level 3, where a guy tells you to pick up chemicals from level 3 and 4, and then you mix them together using this birthday you found earlier in the game, and maybe you forgot about. I didn't, but a review on Steam mentioned that they gave up here because they thought the quest giver told them and they missed it. But whatever. If you know the numbers, they're so high, and the gauge rises so slowly. The first time I did this, I was thinking to myself how annoying it would be if I missed and had to wait the long time to climb back up again. But due to game-breaking bugs, I had to do it 3 times, and it was awful every time. So you get the smoke, you leave, and then you get a call on the radio by someone asking for help, and the main character Axel's like, oh, I should go there quick, and I'm like, go where? He didn't tell you where he was! Thankfully, you can find out by looking in the Objectives tab in the pause menu, and it tells you to go to the canteen, which is on the way, so you do. The first time I almost ran past, because I was like, fuck it, this is optional, right? But I changed my mind because I was like, well, maybe helping them will unlock something cool later. So we turn around, I start to fight, but he gets swarmed and dies. Well, heck. But the waves keep coming, and then I end up dying because I go to pick something up off the ground and get stuck in the you picked something up notification. I'm mashing all of the buttons, you know, pick up, space, whatever. I'm fucking, none of the buttons help. And that was the first time I died on my first run. So I reload the save and my inventory isn't right. My rations are gone. On normal, this isn't a big deal. There are some places in the game where you can pick up unlimited rations, but I don't want to backtrack every time I die just to have health. But on hard, this was devastating. Oh, you mean I died because of my lack of health and now I can't heal? Great! Though the load game inventory glitch doesn't just affect rations. Speaking of the rations, it's a little annoying that you have to pull them out from your inventory and then press enter to use them. I know it's a really minor thing, but a dedicated heal button would have been nice. I mean, we have a dedicated scope button. Why can't we have a dedicated heal button? Anyways, reload, get all the chemicals again, do the mixing minigame, and then fight the horde with Turret Boy. This time, he's really helpful. I mean, he still just kind of shoots straight, but if I get the monsters that aren't mown down by his fire, then we're golden. You get an achievement for saving them, but I don't know if you get anything in the game about it other than like a bonus wave of enemies when you send them off. It's not a big deal though, because the Horde gives you tons of ammo. Like, you probably won't be hurting when you start that fight, but afterwards, ammo is no longer a precious resource. But okay, so I managed my way back to the laser room, and I pull out the smoke device, and nothing happens. I think maybe it'll auto-trigger when you get close enough, and then I die, because I went through the lasers. Okay, we'll restart. Thankfully, there's a save room just before the laser room, so it's a short walk, and when I pull it out this time, I realize, oh, it says press enter to use. Okay, well, that's on me. So I get close, and then I press enter, and nothing. Well, that's not right. I walk up, down, all around, trying to find the right spot, but nowhere seems to work. I even plug in the controller just to make sure, and nope. In a fit of desperation, I dodge roll through the lasers, and I make it. Alright, cool, let's move on. I go forward, I interact with the switch, it doesn't work, and then next to it there's a note that says the power has to be turned off to the lasers, so I head back. Now, earlier in the game, you need to turn on the power in this type of room, and on this floor, they reuse that asset here, so I think, okay, well, I need to head to that room to turn off the power. I go to jump back through the lasers, and as I'm rolling, I see the panel on the wall that I had to interact with to turn off the lasers, and I'm like, fuck! The lasers kill me, and I weep. So I go back thinking, maybe I died because you need the smoke equip to jump through. I put it in my hand, I press enter, and I jump through the spot I did last time, and I die. Okay, so the lasers are moving. Is this just going to be luck now? And you know what? That was the next 15 minutes of my life. Jumping at the wall, hoping to luck out. At some point, I realized my weapon's raycast for aiming hit the lasers, so I try to use it to gauge where they are, but they're so fast that I wondered, well, maybe they're tied to the frame rate, which is currently at 60 frames, so maybe they'll be slower at 30 frames. So I turn the setting down, I try to smoke it, oh hey, now it works. So that's kind of wild, but whatever. The lasers are still fast, but now I can see them, and I have a better chance. So I get through, I turn them off, and now the saga's over. Like I said earlier, this laser beam smoke glitch almost made me give up on my first playthrough, because like, what the fuck was that? I'm over here pressing enter and like it just doesn't work, and then I turn the frame rate down and now it does work. But I don't think that was strictly the issue, because like on my later playthrough, I think playthrough 4, I go through, I didn't turn down the frame rate setting and I could put it down. Maybe it was the update. We'll get to the update. On my third, now knowing how the lasers worked, I was able to use my aim reticle to get the rhythm of the lasers and then jump through them and turn them off without the smoke. But the game doesn't like sequence breaking. How could you forget? So when I go to pull the Gen 3 lever, it doesn't do anything. And it breaks my heart because I felt so cool for being able to sequence break, only for the game to smack my hand and call me a bad girl. You backtrack and you like it. My second and third attempts were done on hard, and on hard you only get one ration per station, of which there aren't many, and I'd been whittled down mostly by getting hit through walls. Because remember, if you don't take care of an enemy, they don't go away. They just follow you, and they have trouble getting through doors, so a door will close on them, and then they just sort of give up by the door. Because of the backtracking, you have to go back through that door, where they're waiting, and there isn't really a good way to open the door without them reactivating and taking a swing. All to say, at that point, I have to do the smoke run in my third playthrough, and I had very little health, so I started dying to combat because of the swarms of enemies that have just been laid about in the earlier areas. There didn't have to be that many if I'd gone there earlier, as enemies respawn by event triggers, you do a thing, new enemies drop, but the old spawns don't despawn, so if you're doing a pacifist run, or you just don't go to the non-crucial areas before they're crucial, you'll end up with too many enemies to maneuver around. This difficulty spike makes me quit my third playthrough. So after you get the smoke, jump past the lasers, you end up in Generator 3, where the Lobster King shows up. They're basically just a reskin of the last boss, but bullet spongier. Here the game audio starts to break down, unsure if I'm in a fight or not. This boss, though, makes me realize that I don't really like Q as dodge, just because it's hard to press while I'm strafing with A. This boss makes my fingers twist up with all the dodging and reloading I have to do. I don't know, maybe it could have been space. After you beat him, the game tells you, on level 6, you need to go back up to level 1. And the game draws attention to how annoying this is, with the character saying, oh, I don't like backtracking. But pointing out bad game design doesn't really excuse bad game design, you know? It would have been way better just to have an elevator on level 6 that went to comms. Actually, it would have been really cool if there was just one elevator that you could select all of the levels from, but instead, every level has 2 elevators, one that goes up and one that goes down, which I think is fine design for a linear game, but having to backtrack through every level just to go up is kind of a chore. So we walk all the way back up, and the comms door that unlocks just leads to the up elevator, which goes to the comms room, where you have to interact with the right console to push the plot forward. It's the one in the left room, towards the back. If you interact with the one on the right room, nothing happens, even though it tells you can interact. Honestly, it's an annoying thing throughout the game that you can interact with things even if it's not the right time yet, so it just doesn't work, and you're stuck there being like, well, what's wrong? But once you interact with the right console, on the left, you're told that you need to go up to the surface to recalibrate the dishes. Then, you're allowed to go onto the surface, which, like the canteen, is a great difference in location, feeling wide and open after so much time indoors. But quick, we gotta go back indoors to recalibrate the satellites. Here another glitch plagues me. I paused the game while in the puzzle screen, and if you click off of the game while paused, the cursor disappears when you click back onto it, which stops you from exiting the pause menu with the mouse and keyboard. And up until this point, I was able to circumvent this being a game-breaking bug with a controller, as you can press the pause button to unpause the game. However, in this instance, there's also no cursor in the puzzle menu, and the controller doesn't work in the puzzle menu, so now I'm stuck. If this hadn't happened, there was a high chance I probably could have beaten the game on my first run, but I shut the game down, and then there's an update. I get it, I load back up, everything seems normal at first, but little do I know, the game's main bug, the save system, which steals items from you every time you quit and load. Usually it's rations, sometimes it's ammo, but this particular time it was my key card. So we fight the third boss, who is the first boss again. It's not even a reskin, it's literally the first boss. They're very easy, as I'm stocked up on ammo now, and then I go down to turn on the communications, and now my objective is to find the 4th elevator. So I go to use the elevator to get all the way back down to level 6, where the level 7 elevator is, but oh no, my keycard is gone and I can't use the elevator. This is my first playthrough. I'm about 3 hours deep, and at first I think I'm just missing something, so I scour the map for anything before quitting and reloading, but I'm still missing my item. So in an act of desperation, I try opening up my save file, only to find out that the save file is illegible, essentially. I have no clue what kind of save system they use, but it's awful. I have a feeling maybe there's another save hiding somewhere, because even if you copy the text from a save, make a new one, and then paste the old text into the new one, it still loads you with the new one. Regardless, once I figured out I couldn't save scum my way through this glitch, I gave up for the first time. I said to myself, I'll try another day, which I did 3 times in fact. 2 and 3 were the same hard mode run, but my 4th I went back to normal just so I could beat it. I speed all the way through, I get back to the comms, now knowing not to pause so I don't lose my key card, because I'm not sure if it was the update or if it was reloading my save. Either way, I am able to get back down to level 7, ground 0, the second to last area, I presume. Here they introduce a monster that got hyped up in a note earlier, and I really like how they hyped it up. Though, I thought the Lobster King was the creature from the note at first. It wasn't until I saw this Devil Girl that the pieces of that note clicked. The note says that they're resistant to bullets, but I'm wondering if the armor piercing did anything more. I didn't really test this one out. I already had armor piercing in my SMG, so I used that and made quick work of them. And ultimately, they didn't really live up to the expectation of the note, but it was still a really good setup. Anyhow, you run around the circle, and I notice a locked door in the back. Then I go to the generator boss fight, which this time is doing a QTE while minor enemies spawn in. I think you're supposed to juggle shooting and pulling, but every time I shoot, I lose all of my QTE progress, so I just hold the QTE and pray. And thankfully, the monsters don't hit me for some reason. I get a radio call saying I should blow the facility up. I just need to go down one more story. And looking at the map, I see the down elevators in the center, where that locked door leads. So I head over, and it's still locked. Did I miss something? Did the game not trigger the door? Like I mentioned earlier, I ended up backtracking through the entire level, looking in every corner just to find maybe something I missed. And then I get to the top, and I'm like, well, I'm not walking all the way back down, so I quit out, I reload my save, losing all of my extra ammo, and it doesn't even work. I'm still locked out. I decided to shoot the dev a message asking if maybe there's a key or if it was the radio call that's supposed to unlock it, and they confirm it's the latter. And not having the strength to do a 5th full playthrough, I decided to call it quits and write this script. I already feel like I did my due diligence giving this 2 to 3 hour game 7 to 8 hours of my life. I know I've been focused on the bugs, but they're extremely prominent throughout the game. So many times I got soft locked, sometimes a reload would fix it, and sometimes it was so bad I had to reset the entire game because the game only has one save slot. I think it frustrates me because when the game isn't breaking down, it's a solid action horror game. A little heavy-handed in the backtracking, and the story isn't anything new, but the experience when it clicks is great. Even with all the glitches, I'd be hard-pressed to say I don't like it. It's just, it takes it from a fun little game that I think all action horror fans could enjoy to one that only those with a high tolerance of jank could stomach. I'll certainly keep an ear out for when those patches come. I'd love to sneak an update in a future video saying it's all been fixed and the ending was worth the trouble. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, and if you enjoy what I do here and want to support me more, you can donate to my Ko-fi or wishlist Vladimir's lore. And until next time, keep dreaming!